When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, folks. This is Mark Ludlow with the Fearless Mindset Podcast, and today we have the legend, the magician, the mastermind, Spencer Lodge, joining us from over there in Dubai, I believe, over there in UAE. Is that correct, Spencer? You're overseas right now.
I am in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, in the Middle East, home of the world's tallest building and a whole bunch of other records as well. And along with Expo 2020, which took place, started last weekend, the big world fair that's lasting for the next 6 months. And so, yes, Dubai is the fastest growing city in the world. I suppose some people would say it's like Las Vegas without the strippers and without the gambling. I think that's a nice way of putting it.
Very well put there, Spencer. And Spencer, for the audience, so you know who Spencer is, Spencer has sat down with some of the world's legends, celebrities, stars, you name it. He's sat down with Grant Cardone, and just to name one, many that he's been with. And Spencer's he has an influence, and he's involved with human trafficking, sex human trafficking. And that I heard him speak in a situation environment, and I was like, you know what, I need to tap into that, and the audience needs to hear your story, Spencer, and your influence in that situation with sex trafficking of human beings. It's just it's a rough one, and most of my audience, they're military, law enforcement, a lot of former bodyguards, police officers, and that mainly the U.S. based audience. And then this is something we definitely need I need to get the magnifying glass or the spotlight on and shine, and love to hear you share of how it's affected your life and how you've been being able to affect that arena and just human sex trafficking. What got you interested in doing that? What was the trigger for you, Spencer?
Well, I think I was like many people that was to some degree oblivious to it or naive to it. I'd watched a few documentaries, seen it, didn't like what was going on. But I joined an organization called the Global Sustainability Network that's headquartered here in Dubai about 3 or 4 years ago. And I met this remarkable lady, a lady from Portugal who at 2 years old was orphaned by her mum, got herself a job as a cleaner, and just kind of like sexual abuse as a child and that kind of stuff, but just kind of like got on with her life, wanted to learn languages. She moved to Switzerland, and Switzerland's not part of the EU. So if you're in the EU, you can work wherever, but Switzerland's not part of it. And she moved there, got a job as a housekeeper, was involved in a car accident. She went to hospital. They realized she was working illegally. They said, look, once you're healed, you have to leave. She then went to London, worked as a housekeeper there, kept cleaning, and just said, I'm going to be the best cleaner there is. And in Portugal, the famous soccer celebrity is Cristiano Ronaldo, who's probably the most famous footballer in the world. And so she said, if I'm going to be a cleaner, I'm going to be the Ronaldo of cleaners. And then one day she saw a sign for a job for cabin crew for Emirates Airlines. And that for her was a dream. But she spoke Portuguese, she spoke Spanish, she spoke some German from Switzerland, and she's starting to speak English. And so she had language skills. She thought she'd give it a go. She applied for the job, and lo and behold, she got the job. And so congratulations to her for that. Her dream came true. She came to Dubai as cabin crew. And one of her early flights was to Dhaka, which is the capital of Bangladesh. And she flew in, had a couple of days there, and just kind of moseyed around while she was there, walked through the streets, saw the slums, was horrified by what she saw, and decided that she wanted to do something. So she offered to help her family. And she flew back to Dubai, sold her possessions, flew back to Dakar to help a family, and the family with kids. They had nothing. And that was the start of her journey. And then what she did is she went on Google and typed into Google, how do I raise money for charity? And the first thing that came up on Google was to climb to the summit of Everest. Now, bear in mind, this lady had never done any sports in her life at all, never done, let alone any climbing or hiking or anything like that kind of stuff. But she said, okay, well, if that's what I've got to do to raise money for charity, then that's what I'll do. And she trained to climb the highest mountain in the world. That was the first mountain she climbed. She got to the summit. She's the first Portuguese person to do so. And that was the start of her journey on raising money. And she then went on to climb the rest of the 7 summits in the world. She went to the North Pole, the South Pole, the English Channel. She did 8 Ironmans in 8 weeks in 8 countries. She did 7 marathons in 7 days, I think it was, in 7 continents. I mean, crazy stuff, all to raise money for these children. And these children that are born into the slums, when you're 12 years old or when you reach puberty, then you're available to be married. And so these kids are being married off to 30-year-old men. And these kids don't want that. If your skin is dark, you've got less chance than if your skin is lighter of getting married as well. And they went through systemic abuse and gang rape and all this kind of stuff. And so it's very moving. And then, when you hear the story, it's moving. But then Maria invited me to meet the kids. And one day she had 12 of the girls, and she said, "Would you like to meet them?" I'm like, "Yes, I'd love to." She says, "Where would you like to meet them?" I'm like, "I don't know, the mall. Should we meet in the mall? I'll take them for an ice cream." She says, "Spencer, it's a fantastic idea, but just be prepared." I'm like, "Okay, well, what do I need to be prepared for?" She said, "They've never had ice cream."
Wow.
And that was kind of a real kind of moment for me. And then I met the girls. They came over to me. They were the most loving, kind 8 to 12-year-old kids that I'd ever seen in my life. We then took them off to the fun fair. Again, never been to a fun fair. And then we came to the supermarket in the mall, and I said, "Maria, let me get the girls what they need. Tell me what they need and we'll go fetch it." She said, "They need everything." And I'm like, "Okay, no problem at all," thinking that was a generic thing. And she went, no, everything. They have nothing. I'm like, "What do you mean nothing?" She's like, "Spence, they have nothing." So I called a buddy of mine called Loai, who's in the real estate game over here. And I'm like, "Loai, I need a hand. I need a couple of hours of the time." He came over, met the girls, was won over like I was, and we just took a bunch of shopping trolleys into the hypermarket and took the girls with us. And we said to the girls, "Why don't you get some pajamas?" And they looked at me and they're like, "What, to keep?" And I'm like, "Yeah, to keep. Get some sneakers as well. Go and try some sneakers on." and girls, they're girls, so they need hair clips and a hairbrush, and they need, sanitary stuff for girls, but they need all hygiene stuff, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrush, you name it, everything from the basics upwards. And these kids couldn't believe that we were filling up these shopping trolleys and getting them what they needed. And Loai, my friend, was just incredible. What a kind gentleman he was. It really moved me watching this guy responds to a request on a text message. He dropped everything that day and came and spent the rest of the day. And I'm very, very honored to call him a friend, to be honest with you, because what I saw was incredible. And then from that moment onwards, that I needed to do something. I needed to make a difference. And what do? There's so many children in need. But Maria has now taken 600 children from the slums of Bangladesh and educated them all internationally. So they've got careers. A couple of them have even got scholarships to Harvard. I mean, these kids want to be educated. They want to learn. So not like our kids in the UK and in the US that might have an attitude sometimes. These kids, want to learn. You want to teach them something, they want to learn it. Doesn't matter what it is. And so you just have a moral responsibility. People like you and I have been born into much more fortunate lives than they have. And if we can't set aside some time to try and help people that have been through, horrible. There's one girl called Lucky who I know really well. Lucky's sister was, when we were with her, they went back to Bangladesh, and Lucky's sister was gang raped by 3 men, all over the age of 30. She's 12 years old. 12 years old. And it's just like, this is just wrong. So that got my journey going into this whole world. And so as part of the Global Sustainability Network, we tried to think about the different UN goals that we wanted to work towards. And, goal 8 was the real driver for us. Forced child slave labor was something we were really bothered about. Then I met a wonderful guy called Kailash Satyarthi. And Kailash made a movie called The Price of Free. Now, Kailash has now saved over 80,000 children out of child slave labor himself. And he won the Nobel Peace Prize. And it's a fantastic honor for a guy that is just, and in his mind, he just needs to fix this. He doesn't want any glory, doesn't want any attention. He just wants to fix the problem. And when you're around people like that, they influence you, they inspire you, and they drive you on to wanting to do more than just talk. And that's to try and make a difference.
That is so powerful. I mean, the audience needs to know that because America, as you know, Spencer, America lives in a bubble. We do. And we're in this false sense of security in the bubble. And there's a whole world out there. And, I know you're working on a film right now with Netflix. Is that correct? And you guys are in the back end working on that project as we speak.
Yeah, I've got a trailer that you're more than welcome to share if you want to on that. We're still filming it. It's not completely done yet. But what happened is through my podcast, I've been able to interview some fantastic people. But one guy in particular was a guy called Leon Logothetis. And he has a TV show called The Kindness Diaries. And in the second season, he takes a battered up Volkswagen Beetle with no heating, and he drives it from Alaska all the way down the Pan Pacific Highway to Chile in the South America. And on his journey, he has no money. So he can accept kindness, which is fuel for his car, shelter, and food. That's the only thing he's allowed to accept. He can't accept money. And when he sees an extreme act of kindness, he repays it with a life-changing gift. So a couple of examples are he was in Los Angeles in Santa Monica, didn't have anywhere to stay. And this homeless guy said, look, I've got nowhere for you to go, but you can sleep with me. I'll look after you. I'll feed you. And we'll stay warm this evening. And Leon's seeing a guy that has nothing, surrounded by people that have everything. And the guy that had nothing offered to take care of him. Well, Leon decided to repay that kindness with a life-changing gift, and he got the guy his own apartment. And wow. So wonderful stories. Another one in South America, there was a school in South America. This German lady had been working for the last 50 years on educating these kids in Peru in the middle of nowhere. And he saw what she was doing, and he decided to double the size of the school by building another 6 classrooms. And so it's this kind of stuff that he does. Anyway, so I've got this wonderful guy that I'm having this wonderful conversation with, and I'm really moved by him. And at the end of the interview, I said to him, Leon, I'm a little bit jealous of you. He's like, why? I'm like, you got a TV show and I don't. And he looked, as I'm looking at you right now, he looked straight down the camera at me and he went, why not?
Oh, a challenge.
And I was like, I didn't know what to say. He said, if you want a TV show, you can have one. He goes, you just got to work out how to do it. And he offered me an hour of his time for the following 6 weeks, once a week, to brainstorm. He said, if you can get the hairs on my arm to stand up, then I know we've come up with a good idea. Wow. So we brainstormed, came up with an idea. The directors got involved, the producers got involved. And from that beginning evolution, we then got down to what really mattered to me. And it came back to the human trafficking and child slave labor aspect. And so we then designed a show that was essentially a journey for me to dig into this whole dark and dirty world. Now, they did warn me. They said, look, Spencer, human trafficking is much bigger than the drug industry. Drugs are sold once. Humans are sold over and over again. It's $140 billion a year. It's big business.
How much is that?
$140 billion a year.
Wow.
And staggering, isn't it, when you see those numbers. And you know, when you have that kind of number in front of you and you see that, you're like, you want to try and work out what you can do. So,
sure.
But for me, the issue is if we make documentaries about third world countries where this goes on, what you see is people going, oh, that's really bad. And then they kind of brush it under the carpet and get back to their nachos or whatever it may be. Human trafficking is everywhere. And so this documentary is me going to the richest parts of America, the richest parts of the UK. So I'll be in the Hamptons. I'm in Beverly Hills. I'm in Connecticut. I'm in Mayfair and Park Lane in London. I'm in Paris on the Champs-Élysées to demonstrate that human trafficking is going on under your noses in your town and your city right now, this very minute. And I want to really bring attention to people that turn a blind eye to it or think that it goes on in faraway lands, and to remind us very relaxed and laid back British people and American people, because you're just the same. There's no different. Your country's bigger, but we have the same attitudes towards it. If it's not on my doorstep, why do I need to worry?
Exactly.
And by bringing the attention to people that live in Beverly Hills, for people that live, in all of the finest places, Carmel, California, Newport Beach, you name it, all the nicer places in the United States, to bring it to their attention and realize it's going on under their noses and you can do something. Don't turn a blind eye, because it makes you as bad as the person that's carrying on with this horrible act.
Absolutely. Now, in your journey with the trafficking, is it mainly the cartel backing it, or is it many organizations, rich people, politicians involved? I mean, I've heard conspiracy theories on this stuff. You probably have a better idea who's behind this type of thing.
Yeah, so, I've worked with Homeland Security, I've worked with the CIA, and so I've worked with the British police. And so while I've been investigating and researching this, and then you can see on some of my episodes, there've been guests as well, and they've been phenomenal. So I'll give you some stats. First of all, it's not like the cartels typically you imagine to be in the whole drug industry, like the Mexicans and the Colombians and all that kind of stuff. It's far more widespread because trafficking goes on in many different ways. So I'll give you an idea of the numbers. So the 500,000 kids go missing every year in the States. 75% of those kids come out of the foster care system.
Wow.
So you've obviously got, and that's the same as any first world country. It has those problems. The foster care system and that just doesn't work well in most countries. Take strippers. 82% of strippers in strip clubs, 82% are trafficked.
I didn't know that. Wow.
74%, and this is the stats that we've been given, 74% of all females in pornography, on YouPorn, Pornhub, all these ones, are trafficked.
Unbelievable.
So this is just colossal in terms of its size. The countries, I've got some stats for you here. So child trafficking, the number one country in the world is India. There's 14 million kids a year that are trafficked. China, 3.2 million. Pakistan, 2.1 million. In Venezuela, for example, of the people that are trafficked, 55% are adults, 26% are young girls, and 19% are young boys. So this is going on. You take Eastern Europe, Belarus is the number one country for child trafficking and sex trafficking. China is the number one country in the world for trafficking, period, of adults and kids. California, as I say, is the number one state in America. There's horrifically frightening numbers. So who is somebody who's trafficked? Well, a lot prostitutes that have pimps. Okay, you get a lot of those guys, and you've seen documentaries on that kind of stuff anyway in the States. You'll see that going on. Trafficking is where young girls or young ladies are promised jobs in other countries, working in hospitality, in restaurants, bars, working in hotels, working in offices, learning English and other languages. They get trafficked. One of the biggest countries in Europe to traffic is Albania. So we've met a guy called Nacho that we know. Now, imagine somebody called Nacho. An American can imagine someone called Nacho. Okay,
Nacho.
Just think. Okay, he's got the big curly hair, the moustache. He's Nacho. So he has a safe house in Austria, in Vienna, and under 12-year-olds trafficked and taught how to be pickpockets across the major cities in Europe. Under 12, because they can't be arrested. They have to collect every day 300 euros. If they collect the 300 euros, they're left in peace. If not, then they're abused. So what Nacho does is he goes around the cities and he gets the kids and he puts them in the safe house and he gets them back to their families. Fantastic people. There's some incredible people out there doing some incredible stuff. Amy Storer at Homeland Security, she's just a wonderful human being as well, the kind of stuff that she's working on. But it's not always big organized gangs. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a guy that's just trying to make a fast buck by running 3 or 4 women, that he's convinced to come across. There was a girl I know as well, that I forget her name, she was on the podcast, an American girl, New Year's Day. She has lunch with mum and dad. She's 13 years old. She's been chatting to some boy online for 6 months. She decides on New Year's Day to go meet him. She turns up. He's 39 years old. He kidnaps her. He tortures her. He rapes her. But he live streams the whole stuff on the dark web. And somebody watched it and reported him. And luckily, after 4 days, she was captured. This is going on. This goes on in religion. This goes on in cults. This goes on in small gangs. It goes on in large gangs. But what's starting to happen is the bigger gangs are starting to get involved now, because think about moving. I don't know much about drugs, but think about moving large amounts of cocaine. It's kind of covert to try and get that kind of stuff moved from South America to into the United States. There's lots of law enforcement agencies that are looking for this kind of stuff. But jumping on a plane and bringing 2 or 3 teenage girls across, it's a different matter, isn't it? How can they be found easily? And, they're in fear of their life. They get told that if they don't do as they're told, their family are going to be tortured or murdered or whatever it may be. And some of your listeners will know more about this than me. And
Sure.
we just need to do something about it. So my documentary is all about tearing up and really getting involved in all of the first world high class places and making sure that people, your listeners and everybody else, know that under their nose this stuff goes on and you can do something. You're just choosing not to, or you're ignorant.
Wow. And for the audience, further information, did you raise your own capital for this film, this documentary you guys are putting together with Netflix, or how did that work? Did you get investors to help you out with that project?
So the way that Netflix works is you produce the pilot, then what happens is if they like the pilot, then they commission the rest of the documentary. So the documentary is, I think, 8 or 9 episodes. So in terms of making the pilot, what we did, we worked with a company, the production company worked with Netflix, and we said, this is what we want to do. Tell us, Netflix, what you want it to look like. Tell us how you want it to be seen. So they gave us some guidance about what they were looking for. And so that's how we've been able to liaise and work with Netflix. And they're like, yeah, once it's done that way, then we'll take it, we'll commission the rest. So no, the first pilot episode I've funded myself. It costs a lot of money, but the simple fact is this is really important. And, you can all go and buy nice cars and nice watches and, live the dream, but this is far more important than any of that nonsense. So it's money better spent in that direction.
And that's very honorable, Spencer. I mean, not many men would do that. And I know you're very successful in your other business ventures. Have had great success in money, the money game. You're a financial mastermind guru, I would call it. And you've done well with that. And you're an extreme workout person. You love to work out. And I see your videos of you running down the street and doing your thing and doing your videos and stuff on Instagram, and you're everywhere. You're just having fun out there, living life. What about your business, your financial business, have you really enjoyed compared to the human trafficking mission that you have now? How has your financial business prepared you for what you're doing currently?
Well, I've got a bunch of businesses, from wealth management to insurance broking to HR software to training programs and stuff like that. So there's a bunch of stuff that I've got. What I'm bad at is business. I'm actually not great at business. There's 2 things I'm pretty good at in business. Number 1, I'm good at selling, and number 2, I'm good at finding really good people to run businesses for me. And so my businesses are run by other people, just epic people that are much better than me, which affords me the time to be able to focus on the areas that matter most. And so, I've got my 2 daughters who are 19 and 22 at university at the moment, and I want to be a good father. And I think when you have daughters as well, you feel very protective over daughters. And so seeing this kind of stuff going on, gives you the heebie-jeebies anyway.
Right.
But I think that being able to be successful, relatively, because it's all relative, successful enough for me, has given me the freedom to decide what I want to do. And this is what I want to do. And there's nothing more important. There's nothing more that I think about. There's nothing more that I care about. And there's nothing more that I've been compelled to take action in, such as this.
Because once I had a mentor who's a multimillionaire once tell me, he goes, the most expensive thing you'll ever buy in your life is buying your time back. Would you agree with that concept? Yeah,
there's nothing you can do about time. It's gone. Every minute's gone. So make as much good use of it as you can, and get yourself to a point. I mean, look, I got to myself. I was lucky. When I was 26 years old, I'd made my first million. 28 years old, I was a millionaire. But that I came from no college degree. It was just hard work, grind, banging on doors, making hundreds of phone calls as we did in the olden days. I'm 51 now, and it was grinding. And Americans call it hustle, but we don't like that word. It's a bit cheesy. It was just hard work. And I think that the most important thing for people in business and in sales, and as an example, it's not being the best talker, the best speaker, the most gregarious, the best listener, the guy that asks the best questions. It's not that. The most successful people in business have a process, and they understand the process and they act upon the process. When you know what the process is to create the result that you're looking for, it's very easy to follow. And so for me, I always look at processes. What are the processes that we need to put in place? Can we create a process? And once you've been able to do that for anything, then you can get it done. I'm going to have to organize, or maybe not organize, but I'm going to have to be involved in 2 weddings at some stage in the future for 2 daughters. And, as the father of the bride, I'm probably going to have to cough up the cash. And so with that, this organizing a wedding is like a major event for the people's first weddings. And there's a lot that goes into it. But can you create processes around it? Well, sure you can. And so all of these things, it's process. How do I, what's the process for me to be able to get my show on television? What's the process to make the show in the first place? So let's learn it. Let's create some form of chart, line graph, whatever it is that we need to create, a flow chart. Give us that. Give us a program, a structure, and let's work to it.
What has been the biggest challenge that you've seen in business for you that has become an easy process?
I think it's learning. So learning about, take something like crypto or software and stuff like that. That's always been a challenge for me because these are worlds that are beyond me. So I found things like that challenging. I found getting over your own ego has always been an issue for people in business when they're in the early stages. Worrying about what other people think, they are challenges for people too, really, because they riddle people with fear and anxiety when it really doesn't need to matter. Business isn't complicated, but there are no shortcuts. A great example of what's going on in the world where shortcuts are included is the crypto market. Right now, people have no idea what the blockchain is. Lots of people. They have no idea how cryptocurrencies work, but they think they can get rich quick, so they're throwing their cash at it. And they might get lucky. But they might lose their house. And so for me, it's like, this is a great example of people wanting shortcuts to success. If I was selling how to lose 20 kilos in 4 weeks, all right, I'd make a fortune. 3 things in life people want, okay? They want to lose weight fast, they want to get rich quick, and they want 1 million followers. That seems to be the things that people want in life. And I know some people listening will go, well, I don't want 1 million followers. That's not important to me. Oh, yeah, but most people want significance. And so it's important to understand that. Everybody wants to have enough money so they don't have to work. Doesn't mean they don't work. They just want to have enough money so they don't. And nobody wants to be fat. And nobody wants to put no one wants to put the hard work in, eating the tomatoes and the cucumbers, and drinking loads of water every day. People still want to eat fries. They still want to enjoy strawberry milkshakes and whatever may be. So I think that it's always going to be hard work. It's always going to be tough. It's never going to be easy. Be prepared to put the hours in. Don't think there are any shortcuts. If you want to be great in the crypto space, go learn. That's hard work. Go study. Spend an hour every day studying it. Be obsessed with it. Just like anything, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to put it in.
So, Spencer, for people that are interested in your business, you have many businesses. Which one have you enjoyed the most? I know you're in real estate and your financials and stuff. Which is one that you have enjoyed the most of all businesses?
I've really enjoyed the financial advisory business over the years. That's what I was trained at, and I'm really passionate about people not messing up their finances. I've seen enough examples of people that get to 65 years old without enough money in my time that have now got to live for the next 35 years or 30 years without an income. You consider most people like, what will you do if you don't have enough money when you retire? Well, I'll keep working. Well, who wants to employ a 65-year-old? And just while we're on that subject, how many 65-year-olds have started work at your company in the last 3 years? The fact is none. Yeah. And also, when you're 65, can you guarantee you're going to be fit and healthy? No. So for me, I really am passionate about people bulletproofing their finances. If you want to send your kids to university, it's actually not expensive if you plan the day they're born. It's when they get to 14 or 15 and you realize you've got to find $250,000 or some crazy amount of money that you go, holy macaroni, how am I going to put that together? So for me, it's helping people bulletproof their finances. I've really enjoyed that because it's, you're selling something that somebody would be stupid not to do. And when someone's stupid not to do it, do you really want to appear stupid? And most people don't. And so I've really enjoyed that over the years. And I think my DNA is in that area. Even though I have a training business, I have an online trading platform, I have an insurance business. This whole world of protecting people from making stupid decisions with their money is something I care about greatly.
It seems like it's given you a new passion beyond your business, everything that you've done in business, a new passion. I admire your heart and your enthusiasm for it. It's just, it's a very rare find. You're a very rare gem to find, Spencer, and I applaud you for saving the lives that you are. I mean, that's pretty powerful.
No, that's such a nice thing to say. But you know what? We could look. I'm just a bloke. I'm just a guy. Okay, I'm English. I'm a limey, as you guys would call me. I'm just a kid. I didn't have a fancy upbringing. You know, parents got divorced when I was 7. You know, I grew up in an environment. Yeah, we had love, but we didn't have much money. You know, I left school, didn't get any qualifications. I went out, did an apprenticeship, didn't enjoy that. Became a ski bum for a couple of years, and then decided that I needed to get a proper job. Went and learned how to do it, and just decided I was going to commit myself to getting somewhere in life. And I'm just like you. I'm just like everyone that's listening to this. There's nothing unusual about me. But like all of us, we get touched by things along the way. You know, you'll see somebody, you know, get touched by something, get moved by something. You know, a family member will have, you know, cancer or leukemia or something terrible like that. And it compels you to want to do something when you experience it. And just like that did for me, when I met those girls for the first time, I cried for about a week afterwards. And you talk about Grant Cardone. I'm fortunate to be buddies with Grant, and he did something really beautiful for me, really beautiful. When Grant was in Dubai with Elena, I said I wanted to introduce them to Maria and the girls, and they're like, yeah, of course we want to meet them. So they met them, and I'm like, Grant, this is their situation. And he was going on stage to speak to thousands of people later that day, and he said to me, can I take these girls with me on stage?
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah. And Grant went up on stage. He took all of the girls up with him, and he made them on the microphone tell their story. And it was one of the most moving things I've ever seen. I was just sobbing like a baby as he did it. And then once we finished and we went back to the green room afterwards, we sat down, and he said to Maria, would you like to come to Las Vegas?
Wow.
And she's like, what for? And he said, I'd like you to be at the 10X Growth Conference, and I'd like you to speak to everybody.
Holy crap.
And he invited her, paid her and one of the girls' expenses, put them on a plane, put them in a hotel, got them on stage, got her to tell her story, and got people to contribute and make an effort. And Elena did exactly the same for the 10X ladies event. And I'll never forget his kindness of doing that and giving her exposure to his audience and to his tribe, as we may call it. He's been an incredible human being because of that. And that man, and there's a lot of people that have got something to say about Grant Cardone.
Absolutely.
I tell you something firsthand. I know him. Okay, that man is genuinely one of the kindest men I've ever met, and his wife is an absolute bloody rock star. And I won't have, after knowing them personally, I'll never have anyone say a bad word, no matter how cheesy he might be, no matter how in your face he might be. That guy's got a massive, massive heart, and he should be remembered and applauded for that.
Woo! Drop the mic. Well, kudos to you, Grant Cardone, for having that heart. Many Americans need to have that same heart, because people suffering all around the world. And like you said, Spencer, everybody's worrying about their Rolex watch, their Beamer, their how many houses they have. But think about how many lives you can impact if you've switched your thinking and how you can impact people. And we get so sucked into the money game of how much, I know Grant calls it the money game, but obviously you just proved to the whole world that Grant's got a huge, gracious heart that nobody really knows about and talks about. And it's powerful to see a man and yourself using for the good to take down the evil. And that's profound. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite podcasts yet. I mean, they keep on getting better. And like, holy crap, I wasn't expecting this talk.
You know what? There's other people out there that you don't know are really good as well. You see this kind of this style. I'll give you, Tony Robbins was on our show. We knew we had 30 minutes with him in the studio. So I'll give you 30 minutes. He never does this kind of stuff. He's like, okay, I'll come with you for 30 minutes. We had the studio usually has 4 or 5 people in it. We had 25 people in there that day because Tony was coming in. He did his 30 minutes interview with us. He then stayed for 3.5 hours with everybody else, making videos, chatting, brainstorming, sharing ideas, talking to people's parents. 3.5 hours, he sat there just on the edge of this little stage in the studio, and everybody had their time with him. He didn't rush anybody. And it was such a beautiful thing to watch. It was really, really special. And, Tony, we know is a great guy, but he's much better than that. Gary V, and again, he gets a lot of bad flack too. I've spent time with Gary, and yeah, he's loud and he's boisterous, but again, he's a decent really decent human being. And he has good moral values. He has a good moral compass. If he can help you, he will. Of course, he's really popular in celebrity culture now because of what he says and how he does it. But you have to look sometimes beyond what you see on social media and realize that there's a lot of people like these big celebrities that are doing some incredible things. And I know if I sent a message to Tony and said to Tony, I need your help with Maria and the girls. I need you to do something. Can you put a voice? Can you give some exposure? If I said it to Gary, I know after getting to know them, they would say, absolutely. How can I help?
Wow. And that's a beautiful thing of just being generous with your time. And not many people in America, we're so caught up in COVID-19 and everybody's so freaked out and scared. But you guys are, huge icons in the world and you're doing powerful things and you're like modern day superheroes. I mean,
well, I don't think I am, but definitely they are. And I think that I just think there's too many people out on the internet that want to, slag people off or say bad things about them, when they don't even have their own house in order, when they're busy in a mess themselves, they're pointing at other people about the things they do to annoy them. Look, remember there's good in everyone. Just try and think about what you're doing that's good. And I'll tell you something, if everybody was just to take time to look at their own community, right. Whether you're in a city, a town, a village, a hamlet, doesn't matter. Look into your community and try and be a good neighbor. Try and be somebody that looks at people that are less fortunate, rather than saying, well, you should get up off your ass and work harder. Maybe just think about what they might be going through. Practice empathy. You don't know what their story is. You don't know how tough it might have been for them. You don't know what's going on in their lives. Being kind and being empathetic and listening is a great example. There's a wonderful American guy that's got an Instagram and TikTok page called Murph's Life, MURPHSLIFE. And watch his videos. He was a guy in business in the States. I think he worked in the music industry. He went down backpacking into South America. He's been there ever since. And all he does is he uses social media to raise money, to build homes and give food to people that have got nothing, like nothing. He lives on people's sofas. He even said to me, Spence, I'm going to come to Dubai. Can I sleep on your sofa? I'm like, buddy, there's a bed for you. I only need a sofa, Spence. And the amount of good he's doing, I just think we could all be a little bit more like that, and we should stop being so up ourselves and stop being so bloody ignorant. Stop turning the TV on and staring at nonsense and just get out. Facebook, Amen. WhatsApp, and Instagram went out the other day for 6 hours. God. Yeah, what do people do? Most people go into bloody meltdown. On Clubhouse, there was these thousands of people in rooms going, I don't know what to do. Why don't you just step outside your front door and just walk up the street and just think, how can I help out here? Is there someone I can talk to? Because sometimes you could just talk to someone and that can make a difference.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was on there and I'm like, what is everybody doing? There's like 8,000 people in one room with Grant Cardone in the room, and Grant was talking to Nelson and Jonathan and those guys, and like, holy cow. And I was busy doing my conference calls and everything else I was doing for the day. And I think I got more done yesterday than I've done in a long time because everything was down. So I'm like, well, okay, what did we do before social media? Well, we got to work.
We picked the phone up and we used it to make phone calls rather than stare at it.
Cold calling out of the phone book. Like my dad was a hearing aid salesman. And he had a hearing aid business, and my dad would spend hours every night. He got the landline phone into the wall, got the yellow book phone book out. He would call 100 people every day, cold calling, making appointments to sell a hearing aid. Old school sales.
That's how I learned to sell. I remember my first job was cold calling, and my boss said to me on day one, he said, I want you to make 100 cold calls and I want you to get me 100 no's. I was like, wow. And so I made the calls. People were saying no. I'm like, okay, thanks very much. Thinking, yeah, got another no. Yes. got to the end of the day. He high-fived me. He said, I'll see you tomorrow. Next day, he said, I want you to get 100 no's. I was like, okay. So I did it again. Every time I got a no, I was happy because I was getting what he asked for. What he was teaching me to understand was rejection, and that you need to get no's to earn yeses. And because he taught me that way, he taught me to accept and embrace rejection. And so that's how I then became, and some people are fearful of the phone because they're fearful of what someone might say, but I wasn't. I was taught at the age of 19 years old to understand that. And that was a really critical lesson in life and in business.
Was that a baseline for you and your success in sales and business? Just rejection, mental rejection?
I just know that people aren't rejecting me. They're rejecting maybe what I'm talking about. You don't get on with everyone. Not everyone likes you. There'll be people listening to this right now going, who the hell is that guy? And there'll be people going, oh, he's great. Look what he's saying. So the ones that are saying, who the hell is that guy? Maybe don't resonate with me. You understand you've got different personality types. The basics of the analytical, the expressives, the amiables, and the drivers. You've got to get that. But I think that understanding rejection early on was important. Understanding hard work was important. And I think when you go from that place, then those skills are so fundamental to success in business. If you go for job interviews and you get rejection, you can accept it. If you're an actor or an actress and you go for hundreds of auditions and you get rejected, you can accept it. When you know how to accept rejection, know it's not personal, know it doesn't matter, and move on to the next one, then you can pretty much get through anything.
Right. Hey, Spencer, I would like to extend an invitation to those girls. Like Grant Cardone extended his platform, and I would like to extend my show to those kids. If anybody has a story to tell, you got my show. Open invite.
That's fantastic. I'd love to get one or two of the girls to come and tell you their story. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. So I feel I need to contribute my way, and you got it. Open invite. You tell me a date. You got it.
Okay. We have one of the girls is called Shuli, and Shuli's a remarkable young lady because her goal, after all of this, her goal is to become the Prime Minister of Bangladesh.
Wow.
And this is not it would be nice to be the Prime Minister, but it's like, this is a no nonsense. This is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. I need to change my country type of kid. And so I'd love to get her on the show to talk to you. So I'll put you guys in touch with each other afterwards and hopefully get that sorted out.
I would love to do that for you, to support you and your mission and be part of my mission. And Spencer, where can people find you if they want to talk with you or email you? I know you have a team behind you that makes you look like a magician and makes you look amazing.
You can go. They do all the work. Trust me.
I bet. I have a team too.
They're fantastic human beings. A big shout out to Sam and Sabine and to Alicia, the crew, and to my assistant Sarah. They're just wonderful people. So if you go to Instagram and you go to spencer.lodge, Lodge. I know my name sounds like an old people's home, but get over that because I did. But go to spencer.lodge. And if you want to talk to me, the best way to communicate with me is to connect with me on Instagram and send me a voice note. Whatever that voice note is, send me a voice note, and I promise you I will reply with a voice note for you. I'll reply to everybody, always. Okay, I don't always do it within 5 minutes, but I definitely get it done by the end of the day. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, you can go to Spencer Lodge on LinkedIn. You'll see me there. If you want to go to my website, you can go to spencerlodge.tv. My website is there as well. But I would ask you to go through socials. So go to socials, go to Instagram first. That's the best, or LinkedIn if you're a LinkedIn person. Either way, I'm good with that. Connect with me. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, just send me a message saying I heard you on the podcast, and then we can chat.
Perfect. I'm connected with Spencer as well, folks. So find me on Instagram. My Fearless Mindset Podcast is on Instagram. See me connected with Spencer as well. So if that helps guide you to get a hold of them. And Spencer, I'm just thrilled to have you tell that story about these sex trafficked kids and everything going on. I admire your heart and your passion for humanity. I mean, that's just you're a rare gem on this earth. And thanks for sharing your soul and your kind spirit and how you're impacting with these other businessmen to change the world 1% at a time. That's awesome.
I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate you wanting to hear my story, and to all the listeners out there. Yeah, give us your feedback. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
So, folks, there you have it. Spencer Lodge, the legend, one of the top, the top show right now. Spencer Lodge podcast show out of Dubai. He's ranked up there pretty close to Joe Rogan, and he's rocking and rolling, impacting the whole world with the listeners. So, folks, please subscribe to him, and please follow the Fearless Mindset. And you can find Spencer on Instagram, like you just said, and you can follow us both on YouTube as well. So, folks, that concludes our show, and thanks for your time. And please leave a like on YouTube for the show. And have a great week, and we'll catch you all soon.